Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton has confessed publicly that it is the U.S. who has created al-Qaeda to fight the Soviets in Afghanistan. But they forget at the time of creation that the earth is round, and Isaac Newton's third law of motion is applicable everywhere because it is natural. The third law of motion says, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. The U.S. forgot this in 1979 when the Soviets invaded Afghanistan. They have no clue at all how to deal with them and in the process invaded everywhere unlawfully and blindly in the Middle East, killing innocent civilians in Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, etc. You can categorically say that the U.S. is the mother of all terrorism, which is spread worldwide right now and creating havoc all across the globe, killing innocent people. Watch this video of her confession first and then go to the news.
Is the United States supporting al-Qaeda in Syria? The answer is yes.
Fact number one. There is no question that al-Qaeda fighters are part of the opposition forces attempting to overthrow Syria's government. Fact number two. The creation of al-Qaeda wasn't Islamic fundamentalism, it was the CIA. The Mujahideen was created by the CIA to cause problems for the Soviets. And you might say that's crazy talk, right? Here's Secretary of State Hillary Clinton.
To be fair, we had helped to create the problem we're now fighting. How? Because when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, we had this brilliant idea that we were going to come to Pakistan and create a force of Mujahideen, equip them with Stinger missiles and everything else to go after the Soviets inside Afghanistan. And we were successful. The Soviets left Afghanistan, and then we said, great, goodbye, leaving these trained people who were fanatical in Afghanistan and Pakistan, leaving them well armed, creating a mess, frankly, that at the time we didn't really recognize. We were just so happy to see the Soviet Union fall, and we thought, okay, fine, we're okay now. Everything's going to be so much better. Now you look back, the people we're fighting today, we were supporting in the fight against the Soviets.
So it's not a conspiracy theory, it's history. And it's history that's being repeated in Libya and now in Syria. But there is a bigger problem here, one that every American should be questioning. We're fighting al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, but we're also bombing al-Qaeda targets in Pakistan and in Yemen. And as we do that, something occurs known as collateral damage. Hundreds of civilians in Yemen have been killed in just the first half of 2012 by U.S. airstrikes aimed at al-Qaeda fighters.
We also have a history of kind of moving in and out of Pakistan. I mean, let's remember here, the people we are fighting today, we funded 20 years ago. And we did it because we were locked in this struggle with the Soviet Union. They invaded Afghanistan, and we did not want to see them control Central Asia. And we went to work. And it was President Reagan, in partnership with the Congress, led by Democrats, who said, you know what, sounds like a pretty good idea. Let's deal with the ISI and the Pakistani military, and let's go recruit these Mujahideen, and let's get some to come from Saudi Arabia and other places, importing their Wahhabi brand of Islam so that we can go beat the Soviet Union. And guess what? They retreated, they lost billions of dollars, and it led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. So there's a very strong argument, which is, it wasn't a bad investment to end the Soviet Union, but let's be careful what we sow because we will harvest. And we now are making up for a lot of lost time.
So what you need to know tonight is heavy. Our government is bombing sites around the world in an ongoing war with al-Qaeda. In Iraq, where al-Qaeda had no presence before the U.S. war, al-Qaeda is now thriving. The same al-Qaeda, yes, created by the U.S. government in order to harm the Soviets. And today, at least 13,000 civilians in Afghanistan are dead as a result of that war with al-Qaeda. So with all respect to Ms. Fitzgerald from the Irish Times, this is not propaganda. Rather, it is the question that every American should be demanding answers on from Congress and from this president. Why are we giving al-Qaeda fighters money and weapons to overthrow yet another government in the Middle East? Today, our government claims they're freeing the people of Syria. Tomorrow, if history tells us anything, we will be killing and wounding civilians in airstrikes and then referring to them as collateral damage in a war with an enemy who we brought to power.
Hello friends, welcome to the Global Pulse. Some diplomatic activities in the recent past suggest that US is eager one way or the other to include India into NATO. That is why we hear the supporting statements from some Western allies. See what is said here. What is the significance of such move and what does it suggest? India should be treated like NATO, make a list of Pakistani acts, bill introduced in US Congress. The lawmaker said that Pakistan should not receive US aid if it is found to be aiding or abetting any kind of terrorism in India, particularly in Jammu and Kashmir. The US had expressed disappointment over Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Russia. But despite this, MPs there are advocating for giving more preference to India on a priority basis. A US lawmaker has introduced a bill in the US Senate. It demanded that India must be treated like its allies Japan, South Korea and NATO in terms of sharing technology. India should get exemption in every way, the congressman demanded. The bill was introduced by Florida Congressman Marco Rubio on Thursday. Not only this, he also demanded to crack down on Pakistan. He said Pakistan should not receive US aid if it is found aiding or abetting any kind of terrorism in India, especially in Jammu and Kashmir. He said that American aid to Pakistan should be banned. The bill demands that India exempt from sanctions if it uses Russian military equipment, the Tribune reported. This bill is being called the US-India Defense Cooperation Act, which aims to increase bilateral cooperation. The US MP believes that India is facing China's growing aggression. China is acting arbitrarily, provide necessary security to India. The bill proposes that in order to strengthen partnership, it is necessary to enhance America's strategic, diplomatic, economic, and military ties with New Delhi. In a direct indication of threats to India from China, it proposes to support India in response to growing threats to India's internationally recognized land and maritime borders. It further states that the US should provide necessary security assistance to the India to deter actions of foreign countries that violate India's land and maritime boundaries. Account should be sought from Pakistan. The act states that there is a need to cooperate with India with respect to defense, civil space, technology, medical and economic investments. It has been proposed that Pakistan be asked to account for the weapons and equipment supplied by the US so that they are not used for promoting terrorism against India. It suggested that the US list all cases in which Pakistan has used aggressive force against India, including the use of proxy. In addition, the US should list all instances when Pakistan provided safe havens to terrorist groups and what assistance Pakistan has provided to terrorists in Jammu and Kashmir. The act seeks to exempt India from sanctions under the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, CAATSA. It proposes amendments to CAATSA, stating that it shall not apply in relation to the military capabilities currently used by the India. CAATSA is imposed against countries that have transactions with Russia. Marco Rubio later issued a statement explaining why he introduced the act, saying, "Communist China is aggressively expanding in the Indo-Pacific. It also seeks to constrain the sovereignty and autonomy of our regional partners." The bill sets out the policy that the United States will support India. After going through this news, it creates an impression that there is nothing new in it. Because, there is no need to prove that Pakistan is a rogue nation and the mother of all terrorism. Not only the US, but the entire world knows this. India has been shouting from the rooftop with live evidence for decades about Pakistan being a terrorist state and the safest haven for terrorists. The global community is aware of this. Even Osama bin Laden was caught and killed in Abbottabad, Pakistan. Recently, Pakistani counter-terror officials have arrested an al-Qaeda leader, Amin ul-Haq, describing him as a close associate of the dead Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of the 9/11 attacks on the United States. Pakistan has been a beggar country for so long, still it wants to continue proxy war with India in the form of terrorism by supporting them with all possible means. They are aware that they are incapable of fighting a direct war with India. Terrorist country like Pakistan must be treated with extreme brutality. There must not be any kind of dialogue at any level with Pakistan because they have decided that they are not willing to improve or bring any kind of changes to themselves as human beings. There is only one operation to deal with the whole situation. Wipe out Pakistan from the very root of the global map, mercilessly, like what Israel is doing right now to the Hamas and Palestine. Never think of the common Pakistani citizen even. Be ruthless and erase the entire 25 million Pakistanis. These people must not be treated like humans, they are cruel devils. Only humans must be spoken with language of humanity. India has suffered from so many terrorist attacks over the years. The biggest being the genocide in Kashmir in 1990s, where thousands of Kashmiri Pundits were massacred, driven out of their own ancestors' land and forced to live in refugee camps in New Delhi in their own motherland. This is extremely shameful on the then government of India. They did not take any actions because they could not displease Muslims of the country. If they did so, then there was a danger of losing the vote bank. These people do not want modern civilization. They want to rule the whole world in the name of Islam and take the entire civilization to the Stone Age. Indian armed forces are extremely keen and ready to fight and destroy Pakistan completely, but those from New Delhi are cryptically reluctant. No one knows the mystery as to why they are not ready to fight. Is it the immense pressure from the US or the vote bank politics of Muslims where they cannot displease them in India by attacking Pakistan? Surgical strikes, Balakot airstrikes, or shouting from the hills of Kargil would not work. It is already proved that barking dogs seldom bite. Consolidated actions with determination speak louder than words. After recent terrorist attacks in Jammu region, it has emerged that China has started supporting Pakistan in spreading terrorism in India. China must also be treated with utter cruelty. Thank you very much for being with us. Stay tuned for the latest news and update across the globe. Goodbye and see you soon.